Welcome to your personalized deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at the world of vitamins and minerals. It's a world that impacts all of us every single day. We've got research papers hot off the press and excerpts from the book Vitamins and Minerals, Fact versus Fiction. It's by Myrna Chandler Goldstein and Mark A. Goldstein, MD. So whether you're, prepping for a big health-focused meeting, or maybe you just want to, brush up on the latest science, or maybe you just want to make sense of that supplement aisle, this deep dive is for you.
It's really quite amazing, isn't it, how we take these tiny nutrients for granted, vitamins and minerals. They're really the unsung heroes behind everything, strong bones, a powerful immune system. But there's so much misinformation out there. So today, we're going to try to cut through that noise. We're going to get to the heart of what the science actually says.
Love that. Mythbusters today.
Yeah.
I'm ready. But where do we even begin with this massive topic?
Well, I think a good foundation is really understanding how vitamins and minerals are different. Okay? So vitamins are organic, meaning they're made by plants and animals. Think of them as a bit more delicate. They're easily affected by heat, light, even the acids in foods.
So processing, cooking, even just leaving food out can affect the vitamin content.
Exactly. It's like leaving a delicate flower out in the sun too long. Now, minerals, on the other hand, are inorganic, coming straight from the soil and water, so they're much more stable. You can cook them, store them, and their structure remains pretty much intact.
Makes sense. I'm already rethinking how I handle my fruits and veggies now.
Mm-hmm.
But hold on, there are different types of vitamins, right? I vaguely remember water-soluble and fat-soluble from way back, but it's fuzzy.
Happy to refresh your memory. Water-soluble vitamins, things like vitamin C and the B vitamins, are absorbed very quickly right into your bloodstream. And any excess your body doesn't need, well, think of it as a use-it-or-lose-it system. It gets flushed out in your urine.
So you can't really overdo it with those,
Yeah.
at least not from food sources, right?
Right. Now, fat-soluble vitamins, those are your A, D, E, and K. They need a little more help getting around. They use protein as a chaperone to travel through the body. And the key difference here is they can be stored in your body, mainly in the liver and fatty tissues.
That's where the too much of a good thing warning comes in, especially with supplements.
Exactly. If you take mega doses of fat-soluble vitamins, they can build up over time and potentially become toxic. So always remember, moderation and personalized advice from your healthcare professional are key when it comes to supplements.
Noted. What about minerals? There are tons of those too.
There are, and they're often categorized as macrominerals or trace minerals. Think of it like this. Macrominerals are the heavy lifters, needed in larger amounts. They're like the strong foundation of a house. Calcium and phosphorus are great examples. They build strong bones and teeth.
So, like the bricks and mortar.
Perfect analogy. Then you have your trace minerals like iron and zinc. You need them in smaller amounts, but they're still absolutely crucial. They're more like the wiring and plumbing, making sure everything runs smoothly. Iron, for example, helps transport oxygen throughout your body. And zinc is essential for immune function, among many other things.
So whether it's macro or trace, they're all part of a complex system,
Yeah.
keeping our bodies functioning at their best.
Yeah.
It's really kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is. Now, let's zoom out for a second. Okay.
Right.
We've talked about how important vitamins and minerals are, but how do we actually know if we're getting enough? And what about supplements? Do they actually live up to the hype?
That's a great question, because when I walk down the supplement aisle, it's like sensory overload.
Yeah.
And the book we're looking at, it says that most adults in the U.S. take some kind of supplement. Multivitamins seem to be the most popular. But are we all just popping pills for peace of mind? Or is there real science behind it all?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. And to be honest, a bit more complicated than many people realize.
Okay.
Because while supplements are often marketed as, harmless and natural, you have to remember they can contain very potent active ingredients. And those ingredients can interact with medications, sometimes in dangerous ways.
Wait, seriously? So, what kinds of interactions are we talking about?
Well, for example, there's research suggesting that antioxidant supplements like vitamin C and E might actually reduce the effectiveness of certain chemotherapy drugs. It's a delicate balance. And for someone who's on Coumadin, that's a blood thinner, taking vitamin E, which also has blood-thinning properties, could increase the risk of bleeding, internal bleeding, and even stroke.
Whoa, okay. That definitely makes me think twice about just grabbing whatever is on sale at the vitamin shop. So how do we know what's safe and what's not? I mean, there are so many brands and claims, it's hard to know what to believe.
Yeah. It is tricky, and it really comes down to understanding how the supplement industry is regulated, or rather, how it's not as tightly regulated as many people think. One of the most important things to remember is that the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, use supplements as food, not drugs.
Hold on. So does that mean supplement companies don't have to prove their products actually do what they claim?
That's often the case. They don't need to provide the same level of scientific evidence that pharmaceutical companies do for their medications.
So that's a big difference. So what does this mean for us, the consumers? Are we basically on our own when it comes to figuring out what's legit?
It definitely highlights the importance of doing your research and being a savvy consumer. Unfortunately, this lack of regulation in the supplement industry has led to some concerning issues. Some products have been found to contain fillers instead of the advertised vitamins and minerals, and sometimes the dosages are inaccurate. This could lead to unintended consequences, especially if you're taking other medications.
Okay, that's really good to know. So what's the best way to navigate this supplement maze? I mean, where do we even begin?
First and foremost, always talk to your doctor or a registered dietitian before adding any supplement to your routine. They can assess your needs, help you make informed decisions. Remember, it's about personalized advice. And when choosing supplements, look for reputable brands that have third-party testing to ensure quality and purity. It's worth investing in your health.
Okay, so talk to your doctor. Choose trusted brands. Got it. But even with that, how do we decipher all those letters on the labels? RDAs, DRIs, DVs. It's like a secret code.
I hear ya. It can definitely be overwhelming. Let's demystify those acronyms. You're right, there are a lot of them, and they all play a role in understanding our nutrient needs. We'll start with the basics. The older system of recommended dietary allowances, or RDAs for short, has been replaced by a more comprehensive framework called dietary reference intakes, or DRIs.
So DRIs are like RDAs 2.0.
Exactly. DRIs take into account a wider range of factors and are designed to be more precise and individualized. Within the DRI framework, there are actually 4 different types of values. First, we have what's called the estimated average requirement, or EAR. That's the amount that meets the needs of about half the healthy people in a specific age and gender group. But that doesn't mean it's enough for everyone.
Right, so it's like the middle ground, not necessarily the ideal intake for every individual.
That's why we have the next value, the recommended dietary allowance, or RDA, which you might be more familiar with. It's based on that ER, but it's set higher to meet the needs of almost everyone in that group.
Got it. So RDAs are what we should be aiming for to be on the safe side. What about the other 2 types of DRIs you mentioned? What are those all about?
Great question. We also have the adequate intake, or AI. And that comes into play when there's not enough scientific evidence to establish an ER and an RDA. Think of it as an educated guess, based on what we know so far. And finally, there's the tolerable upper intake level, or the UL. This one's super important because it tells you the highest level of daily intake of a specific nutrient that's unlikely to pose any health risks.
So it's like a don't exceed this amount guideline, especially important with those fat-soluble vitamins we talked about earlier. This is making much more sense now. But what about DVs? I see those on food labels all the time.
Ah, yes, daily values, or DVs. You see those on food and supplement labels. And those are based on a 2,000-calorie diet. They give you a general idea of how much of a nutrient you're getting from a particular serving of food. So it's a helpful tool for making comparisons at the grocery store, but it's not as personalized as the DRIs. Those DRIs are really tailored to specific age and gender groups.
Okay, so DVs are a good quick reference, but DRIs are where it's at for getting a more individualized picture of our nutrient needs.
Exactly. And, it's really fascinating to think about how far we've come in understanding nutrition. Did you know that the whole concept of dietary standards can actually be traced back to the 1830s?
Really? I had no idea it went back that far. Tell me more.
Well, it all started with the 1835 Merchant Seamen's Act in Britain. This groundbreaking act mandated that lime or lemon juice had to be included in sailors' rations to prevent scurvy. And it was really a major turning point because it acknowledged the direct link between what we eat and our health.
Wow, that's amazing. So from limes to DRIs, we've come a long way. But it's incredible to think about how that early observation really paved the way for our understanding of nutrition today.
It really is. And speaking of our ever-evolving understanding, are you ready to dive into some of the latest research findings on specific vitamins and minerals?
Absolutely. I'm all ears. Let's hear what the science is uncovering.
Let's start with a mineral you might not be as familiar with, boron. It may be a trace mineral, but it's turning out to be quite intriguing. One study actually found that boron might be helpful for women who experience dysmenorrhea. Those really painful menstrual cramps.
That's good to know. So many women deal with those. What did this study show exactly?
Well, the researchers had women take 10 milligrams of boron daily, starting 2 days before their period and continuing through the third day of their cycle. And they compared this group to another group who were taking a placebo.
And the boron make a difference.
You bet. The women taking boron had a significant reduction in both the severity and duration of their pain.
Okay, so that's definitely worth noting. What about other potential benefits of boron? Is there any research on that?
There is. Another study looked at a specific form of boron called calcium fructoborate, and it showed promise in reducing knee discomfort. In this study, the participants took 110 milligrams of calcium fructoborate twice a day, and they reported a noticeable improvement in their knee pain compared to those who were given a placebo.
Wow, that's really interesting, especially for anyone dealing with joint issues. Okay, I'm sold on boron. What about a mineral we hear about all the time, calcium? I feel like there's so much back and forth about whether we're getting enough, too much, and what it even does for us.
You're right, there's a lot of noise around calcium. Let's start by debunking a common myth,
Yeah.
okay? That calcium supplements cause constipation. One study put this myth to the test, and they found absolutely no difference in stool frequency between women who were taking calcium supplements and those who weren't.
Well, that's good news. I'm sure a lot of people will be happy to hear that. What about calcium-fortified foods? Do those affect iron levels?
That's another misconception. A study with military recruits actually found that adding calcium and vitamin D to their meals did not affect their iron levels at all.
So calcium and iron can coexist peacefully.
It seems so. However, there have been some surprising findings when it comes to calcium's role in other health areas. For instance, there was a large study looking at whether calcium could help protect against colorectal adenomas, which are benign tumors. And they found that calcium didn't actually offer the protection that researchers previously thought it did.
So even with a well-known mineral like calcium, there's still so much we're learning. What else is new in the calcium research world?
Another study looked at the connection between dairy product intake, which is rich in calcium, and the risk of lung cancer. And they found no link between the two.
So maybe those Got Milk ads were onto something after all.
Well, it's probably not that simple, but it is fascinating to see how research is constantly challenging our assumptions, even about nutrients we think we know well. Speaking of minerals that might surprise you, let's talk about copper. It's a trace mineral that plays a vital role in a wide range of bodily functions. And one study actually focused on copper levels in children with autism spectrum disorders.
Well, that's something I'm really curious about. What did they find?
Well, they discovered that children with autism spectrum disorders tended to have higher levels of copper in their blood than children without the disorder. They even observed a link between the ratio of zinc to copper and the severity of some of the symptoms.
So there might be a connection between copper and autism. That's definitely something to keep an eye on as more research is done.
Absolutely. And there's another study that looked at copper levels in postmenopausal women who were diagnosed with osteopenia or osteoporosis. Those are conditions that weaken the bones.
That makes sense considering calcium is so important for bone health.
Right. But these women actually tended to have lower than normal levels of copper in their blood, which is interesting because copper actually helps support bone health too.
So could copper deficiency play a role in bone problems as we age?
It's a possibility that warrants further investigation. And there's also growing interest in a potential link between copper and Alzheimer's disease. A study using mice actually found that when they consumed copper in their drinking water over time, it accumulated in the blood vessels that supply blood to the brain.
Wow, that sounds concerning.
It is. And this buildup of copper actually interfered with the removal of amyloid beta. That's a protein that forms plaques in the brains of people with Alzheimer's.
So could too much copper contribute to Alzheimer's development?
It's too early to say definitively, but it is a question that scientists are actively exploring. This study just underscores how important that balance is when it comes to copper. Both the deficiency and excess can have significant health implications.
Okay, that's really eye-opening. It's a reminder that we need to find that sweet spot with so many nutrients. Speaking of which, what about fluoride? That's a mineral that seems to generate a lot of strong opinions.
You're right, fluoride can be controversial. But let's stick to the science. We all know it's important for strong teeth. But a pilot study raised some concerns about elevated fluoride levels in drinking water and the potential impact on cognitive development in children.
Now, that's definitely something I want to hear more about. What did the researchers discover?
This study focused on first-grade children in China, where the drinking water had consistent levels of fluoride. And what they observed was a connection between those fluoride levels and potential neurodevelopmental issues in the kids.
So while fluoride can be beneficial for dental health, too much of it might have unintended consequences for developing brains.
That's the takeaway from this particular study, and it definitely underscores the importance of careful monitoring and regulation of fluoride levels in our water supplies.
Good point. Okay, what's next on our vitamin and mineral adventure? I'm ready for more.
Let's talk about iodine. It's crucial for thyroid hormone production, which impacts our metabolism, growth, and development. But here's a surprising finding. Excessive iodine intake during pregnancy might actually increase the risk of congenital hypothyroidism in newborns.
Wait, so something that's considered healthy could actually be harmful in high amounts, even before a baby is born?
That's what this research suggests. The study we're looking at actually found a link between high iodine intake during pregnancy and a greater chance of babies being born with an underactive thyroid.
Wow, that's really important for women to be aware of. It's another reminder that even with essential nutrients, sticking to recommended guidelines is key, especially during pregnancy.
Absolutely. Now let's move on to iron, a mineral that's super important for carrying oxygen throughout our bodies. And one study found that iron supplementation could be particularly beneficial for women who experience heavy menstrual bleeding.
That makes sense. Losing more blood each month could lead to iron deficiency, right?
Exactly. Another study focused on people who donate blood frequently. They're also at risk for iron depletion. And the researchers found that taking a low-dose iron supplement helped these frequent donors recover their hemoglobin levels and replenish their iron stores faster than those who didn't supplement.
So iron supplements can be a real game changer for those groups. What about iron levels in wheat? Is there any connection there?
That's where it gets interesting. Research has shown that overweight women actually tend to have lower iron levels, and this can actually impact their babies too. Their babies are often born with lower iron levels as well.
Wow, I had no idea. Why is that?
There are a few factors at play. Studies suggest that overweight and obese women actually absorb less iron from their diet, plus the enhancing effect of vitamin C on iron absorption, which is usually pretty significant, seems to be less pronounced in overweight and obese women.
So it's not just about how much iron you consume, but also how well your body can actually absorb it. That's good to know. What's next on our mineral list?
Let's talk about magnesium, a mineral that's involved in over 300 bodily processes. It's often praised for its potential benefits for various health conditions. One study focused on the link between magnesium and kidney disease.
I'm all ears. What did they find?
Well, researchers analyzed data from a huge study called the Atherosclerosis Risk in Communities study. And they discovered that individuals with low levels of magnesium in their blood seemed to have a higher risk of developing kidney disease down the line.
So magnesium deficiency could be a risk factor for kidney problems.
It's a possibility that definitely warrants further investigation. But this study adds to the growing body of evidence highlighting magnesium's critical role in our overall health.
Okay. What's our next mineral mystery? Give me all the details.
Let's explore molybdenum. It's a trace mineral that flies under the radar for most people, but it is essential for certain enzymes that help our bodies break down toxins.
So it's like our tiny internal detoxifier.
Exactly. But here's where things get interesting. A study that analyzed the molybdenum content of infant formulas in the US and Canada found that many formulas contain significantly higher levels of molybdenum than human milk.
Wow, that's quite a difference. Is that something to be concerned about?
The researchers were particularly concerned about the potential impact on premature babies. You see, their systems are still developing and might be more sensitive to higher levels of certain nutrients. They called for more research to really understand the safety of these higher molybdenum levels in infant formula.
It's a reminder that even with something as seemingly simple as infant formula, there can be unintended consequences.
Absolutely. And it highlights just how crucial ongoing research and careful consideration of even trace amounts of nutrients are, especially when it comes to vulnerable populations.
That's a really important point. Okay, let's keep this mineral train rolling. What's next?
Let's talk about phosphorus. It's a macromineral that's essential for building strong bones and teeth, just like calcium. But there's a growing concern that many people in the U.S. might be consuming too much phosphorus, especially from all those processed foods we love.
Okay, I'm listening. Why is too much phosphorus a bad thing?
Well, it's all about balance. You see, when our bodies have more phosphorus than calcium, they try to restore that balance by pulling calcium from our bones. Over time, this can weaken our bones and make us more prone to fractures.
So the calcium-phosphorus ratio is really key.
Exactly. And processed foods like lunch meats, sausages, and those convenient frozen meals are often loaded with phosphorus. Manufacturers add it as a preservative. but it's not doing our bones any favors.
That's another good reason to limit processed foods and focus on whole, unprocessed options as much as possible.
I completely agree. And
But
one study actually found a surprising link between phosphorus levels and mortality. Higher levels of phosphorus in the blood were associated with an increased risk of death from any cause, even in people with normal kidney function.
wow, that's unexpected. I always thought phosphorus was a good thing.
It is essential. But like so many things in nutrition, it's about balance. This study suggests that having too much phosphorus in your blood, even if your kidneys are healthy, could be a sign of some underlying health issues.
Okay, I'm starting to see a theme here. Balance is key when it comes to all these nutrients. What else have you uncovered about phosphorus?
Well, this actually segues perfectly into our next mineral, potassium, which plays a vital role in regulating blood pressure and muscle function. It's all about finding that balance between sodium and potassium.
This is one of those minerals I know I should be getting enough of, but I'm not always sure I am.
You're not alone. Many people struggle to meet their potassium needs, but research has highlighted some very compelling reasons to make this mineral a priority.
Like what? Tell me more.
Well, a couple of studies have revealed a strong association between the ratio of sodium to potassium in our diets and our blood pressure levels. People who consume a lot of sodium and not enough potassium tend to have higher rates of high blood pressure.
So it's not just about lowering sodium intake, but also about boosting our potassium intake.
Exactly. It's about striking that balance. And here's another interesting finding. A study on preschool children in Australia found that over half of them weren't getting enough potassium.
Wow, that's concerning. What can we do to help our little ones get more potassium?
Well, the researchers emphasized increasing vegetable consumption as a key strategy for boosting potassium intake in this age group.
Makes sense. Veggies are packed with potassium. Plus, it'll help lower that sodium to potassium ratio, which is a win-win for heart health.
Absolutely. And speaking of needing more veggies, what about teenagers? Are they getting enough potassium?
I have a feeling I know the answer to this one.
You're probably right. A study that looked at potassium intake in teenagers found that over 96% of them weren't meeting the recommendations.
Wow, that's a staggering statistic.
It really is, and it reinforces the importance of encouraging teens to eat more fruits and vegetables, which are naturally abundant in potassium.
Okay, I'm sensing a theme here.
Yeah.
We all need to eat more veggies. What other mineral marvels await us?
Let's talk about selenium, a trace mineral known for its potent antioxidant properties. One study actually found a potential link between low selenium levels and an increased risk of liver cancer.
So selenium might actually protect against certain types of cancer.
That's what this research suggests. Individuals with higher levels of selenium in their blood had a lower risk of developing liver cancer compared to those with lower levels.
That's encouraging. What about sodium? We're constantly bombarded with messages about the dangers of too much sodium, but I'm curious, is there anything new or surprising in the research?
Well, there's an interesting study that challenges the assumption that high sodium intake always negatively impacts athletic performance. Researchers found that when endurance athletes consumed high amounts of sodium, it didn't actually impair their performance like they had hypothesized.
So maybe sodium isn't always the villain it's made out to be.
Well, it's important to note that even though high sodium intake didn't seem to have a negative effect in this specific study, it's still crucial to be mindful of overall sodium consumption due to the impact it can have on blood pressure.
Good point. It's all about balance. Okay, I'm ready for some vitamin insights. What have you got for us?
Let's start with vitamin A crucial nutrient for vision, immune function, and cell growth. A case report highlighted a potential concern for individuals with serious gastrointestinal problems like Crohn's disease.
I'm intrigued. What's the connection between vitamin A and Crohn's disease?
Well, people with Crohn's often struggle to absorb nutrients properly. And this case report detailed a man with a long history of Crohn's who had undergone multiple bowel resections. He ended up developing severe vitamin A deficiency and night blindness.
So even if you're consuming enough vitamin A, your body might not be able to use it effectively if you have certain digestive disorders. That's really important for people to know.
Absolutely. This case highlights the importance of monitoring vitamin A levels in individuals with these types of digestive issues and considering supplementation if needed.
Good point. Okay, what about the B vitamins? There's so many of them. Where do we even begin?
Let's start with vitamin B1, also known as thiamine. It's essential for energy production and nerve function. And an article actually pointed out a concerning trend. A significant percentage of obese individuals seem to be deficient in vitamin B1.
That's surprising. Why might that be the case?
The researchers suggested that people who are obese often consume a diet that's high in refined carbohydrates and low in the whole, nutrient-rich foods that naturally contain thiamine. Plus, the process of metabolizing all that extra sugar actually requires more thiamine, which could deplete the body's stores.
So it's possible for some people who are obese to actually be undernourished in some ways, at least when it comes to certain vitamins.
That's what this research suggests. And it challenges the common assumption that obesity is always a result of overeating. It underscores the importance of addressing potential nutrient deficiencies, regardless of weight.
That's such an important point. What about vitamin B2 or riboflavin?
Riboflavin is crucial for energy production and cell growth. And a study focused on children and teenagers with type 1 diabetes. They often have to manage dietary restrictions because of their condition. They found that these kids were frequently deficient in vitamin B2.
That makes sense. Dietary restrictions can make it harder to get all the nutrients you need.
Exactly. And the researchers emphasized the importance of, incorporating nutrient-rich foods into their diets and potentially considering supplementation to address those deficiencies.
Okay, I'm ready for more B vitamin breakthroughs. What's next?
Let's dive into vitamin B3, also known as niacin. It plays a vital role in energy metabolism and DNA repair. One study found that niacin may have a protective effect against vascular disease in individuals with metabolic syndrome.
Now that's encouraging. Metabolic syndrome is a serious concern, increasing the risk of heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. Finding ways to prevent vascular damage in those individuals is crucial.
Absolutely. And another study discovered that dietary niacin, the kind we get from food, was associated with improved vascular health in middle-aged and older adults.
So yet another reason to prioritize a healthy diet. Bring on those niacin-rich foods.
Exactly. Let's move on to vitamin B5, also called pantothenic acid. It's involved in energy production and hormone synthesis.
I have to admit, pantothenic acid is not one I'm very familiar with.
It's definitely not as well known as some of the other B vitamins, but it's still crucial for our health. One study found that vitamin D5 might be helpful for people with mild to moderate facial acne.
Really? That's fascinating. So many people struggle with acne. I'm eager to hear more about this.
The researchers in this study actually found that individuals who took a pantothenic acid-based supplement had a significant decrease in the number of acne lesions compared to those who took a placebo.
So vitamin B5 could be a potential natural remedy for acne. That's amazing.
It's a possibility that needs more research, but this study offers a promising starting point.
Okay. What else did the research uncover about vitamin B5?
Well, another study discovered that postmenopausal women may not be consuming enough vitamin B5. The researchers analyzed their diets and found that their average daily intake of this vitamin fell far short of the recommended amount.
So some older women might benefit from increasing their intake of vitamin B5-rich foods or talking to their doctor about a supplement. That's really helpful information.
Exactly. And there's also some really interesting research on the wound healing properties of vitamin B5, especially when applied topically.
Tell me more. I'm always fascinated by natural remedies.
Well, a study done on rats actually found that a cream containing dexpanthenol, which is a form of vitamin B5, was just as effective as a commonly used wound healing medication in promoting wound closure.
So vitamin B5 could potentially be a helpful addition to wound care regimens.
It's a possibility that needs further investigation in humans, but this study provides some encouraging evidence for its potential benefits in this area.
Wow, who knew vitamin B5 was so versatile? Okay, I'm ready for more B vitamin brilliance. What's up next?
Let's delve into vitamin B6, also known as pyridoxine. It's a busy bee involved in over 100 enzyme reactions in our bodies, crucial for brain development and immune function.
I know vitamin B6 is important, but I'm always curious to learn about specific research findings. What have you uncovered?
A couple of studies found a potential link between vitamin B6 and depression, particularly in older adults. One study revealed that higher levels of vitamin B6 in the blood were associated with fewer depressive symptoms, while another study discovered that taking vitamin B6 supplements actually helped improve mood in older adults who are experiencing depression.
So vitamin B6 could be a valuable tool for supporting mental health, especially as we age. That's fantastic.
That's what this research suggests. And it emphasizes the interconnectedness of our physical and mental well-being.
Okay, we've covered quite a few B vitamins now. What's next on our list?
Let's talk about vitamin B9, more commonly known as folate or folic acid. It's essential for cell division and DNA synthesis, and we all know how critical it is during pregnancy to prevent birth defects.
Absolutely. Pregnant women are often advised to take folic acid supplements, but I'm wondering, is there any new research on this vitamin?
There is, and it's actually raised a potential concern about folic acid supplementation during early pregnancy. Researchers found that women who took folic acid supplements during their first trimester had a higher risk of developing gestational diabetes compared to those who didn't take supplements.
Hold on. So something generally considered beneficial could potentially increase the risk of a pregnancy complication. That's surprising.
It's definitely something to pay attention to. However, it's important to remember that this study was observational, meaning it couldn't definitively prove that the folic acid supplements were the cause of the increased risk. More research is needed to understand the potential mechanisms at play here.
Good point. It's a reminder that even with vitamins and minerals, there can be complexities and nuances we need to unravel. What else have you discovered about folate?
Another study actually found a positive association between higher folate intake and a decreased risk of colorectal cancer.
So getting enough folate, whether through diet or supplements, might offer some protection against this type of cancer.
That's what this research suggests, and it highlights the importance of making sure we're getting enough of this essential nutrient.
Okay, we're cruising through the B vitamins. What's next on our list?
Let's talk about vitamin B12, also known as cobalamin. It's essential for nerve function and red blood cell formation. And one study found that taking oral contraceptives may impact vitamin B12 levels in the body.
That's interesting. Tell me more about that.
Researchers compared vitamin B12 levels in women who were taking oral contraceptives to those who weren't. And they found that the women on birth control consistently had lower levels of vitamin B12 in their blood.
So there could be a connection between oral contraceptives and vitamin B12 deficiency. That's important for women to know.
Absolutely. And another study found that vitamin B12 deficiency was more prevalent in individuals who are morbidly obese.
Now that is interesting. Is there a reason why that might be the case?
It's not completely clear, but researchers think it could be related to dietary choices, maybe absorption issues, or even changes in gut bacteria in people who are morbidly obese. It's definitely an area that needs more research.
It seems like weight and nutrition are just intertwined in so many complex ways. It's another reminder that maintaining a healthy weight is important for overall health and nutrient status.
Precisely. Now, let's shift gears and talk about vitamin E, a powerful antioxidant that helps protect our cells from damage.
I always think about skin health when I hear vitamin E.
It's true. Vitamin E plays a big role in skin health, but it's also important for immune function and blood clotting. One study discovered that a surprisingly large number of younger adults, and those who mainly rely on food sources of vitamin E, have low levels of this nutrient in their blood.
So even if you're eating a healthy diet, you might not be getting enough vitamin E. I wouldn't have guessed that.
That's what this research is suggesting. They used data from a national health and nutrition survey and found that many young adults just weren't meeting their vitamin E needs through their diet alone.
That's eye-opening. So taking a vitamin E supplement might be something to consider, especially if you're not getting enough vitamin E-rich foods.
Exactly. And let's finish up our vitamin exploration with vitamin K. It's crucial for blood clotting and bone health.
You know, vitamin K is one of those nutrients I know I should be getting, but I'm always a little fuzzy on the best sources.
It's found in leafy green vegetables like spinach and kale, but also in some fermented foods like sauerkraut and natto, and some animal products. One study actually found that a higher intake of vitamin K from food was linked to better bone mineral density, especially in women.
So eating your greens really does help keep your bones strong.
The research supports that. The study found that women who ate more vitamin K had higher bone mineral density in both their femur and lumbar spine, which are key areas for bone health.
Another victory for Team Veggies. We've really covered a lot of ground today, from the mysterious boron to the mighty vitamin K. What other mineral marvels await us?
Let's wrap up our mineral discussion with zinc. It's a trace mineral that's essential for immune function, wound healing, and cell growth.
I always try to up my zinc intake when I feel a cold coming on.
That's a smart move. Zinc definitely plays a role in supporting the immune system. One study found that zinc supplementation actually improved immune markers in elderly individuals.
That's fantastic news. Our immune systems tend to weaken as we age, so finding ways to boost them naturally is so important.
I couldn't agree more. And another study looked at the impact of vegetarian diets on zinc status.
That's something I've always been curious about. What did they find?
Well, their findings showed that people following vegetarian diets often had lower levels of zinc compared to those who ate meat.
That makes sense. Meat is a good source of zinc. So if you're a vegetarian, you might need to be more mindful about getting enough zinc from plant-based sources.
You're absolutely right. There are plenty of plant-based foods that contain zinc, like beans, nuts, and seeds, but vegetarians and vegans might need to be more intentional about including them in their meals or talking to their doctor about a supplement.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening. It's amazing how much research is constantly refining our understanding of these essential nutrients. There's always something new to learn.
I completely agree. It really highlights the dynamic nature of nutrition science.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. We've explored the differences between vitamins and minerals, debunked some common myths, delved into the complexities of the supplement industry, and even uncovered some surprising research findings.
It's been quite the journey.
It has. But, if I'm being honest, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed by all this information. Where do we even begin to apply all this to our daily lives?
That's a great point. It's one thing to understand the science, but it's another to actually put it into practice.
Exactly. So what are the key takeaways we should all be focusing on? What are the practical steps we can take to make sure we're getting the vitamins and minerals we need?
You're absolutely right to be feeling a bit overwhelmed. I mean, we just threw a ton of information at you. But the good news is you don't need a PhD in nutrition to make healthy choices.
Okay, that's reassuring. So let's break it down. Where do we start?
Well, first and foremost, remember that food is always the best source of vitamins and minerals. No supplement can truly replicate the complexity and synergy of nutrients found in whole, unprocessed foods.
So before we even think about supplements, we need to take a good look at what's on our plates.
Exactly. Aim to fill your plate with a rainbow of fruits and vegetables. They're packed with vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. Don't forget about whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats.
So it's all about variety and balance.
You got it. Now, supplements can definitely play a role in certain situations, but they should never be a replacement for a healthy diet.
Okay, so supplements are more like supporting actors, not the main stars of the show.
That's a great way to think about it. If you do decide to take supplements, remember those key points we discussed earlier. Always talk to your doctor first. Choose reputable brands that have third-party testing, and be mindful of potential interactions with any medications you're taking.
Got it. Talk to your doctor, choose trusted brands, and proceed with caution. I'm feeling a bit more empowered now.
That's great to hear. And remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand about vitamins and minerals, the better equipped you'll be to make informed decisions about your health.
That's so true. I used to be intimidated by all the nutrition information out there, but now I feel like I have the tools to navigate it confidently. This deep dive has been a game changer.
I'm thrilled to hear that. And before we wrap things up, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder.
Okay, I'm ready. Lay it on me.
We've talked a lot about how certain vitamins and minerals can influence each other, either helping or hindering absorption. What if we shifted our focus away from just thinking about individual nutrients and started looking at our diets as a whole, as a complex web of interactions?
I like where you're going with this.
How can we create meals that optimize those interactions for maximum benefit? It's not just about, checking off boxes and making sure we hit our daily requirements for each vitamin and mineral, but about creating synergy on our plates.
That's a powerful idea. It reminds me of that saying, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Maybe the same applies to nutrition.
Exactly. It's about understanding how all these pieces fit together and work in concert to support our health, and that's something to keep exploring.
I love that. It's not just about eating our veggies, but about creating a vibrant, nourishing ecosystem within our bodies.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
So everyone listening, I hope you're feeling as inspired as I am to keep learning and exploring the world of nutrition. It's a lifelong journey, and the more we understand, the more empowered we become to take charge of our health.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive into vitamins and minerals. Until next time, keep exploring. I love that. Creating a vibrant, nourishing ecosystem within our bodies. That's a really cool way to think about it. So as we wrap up this deep dive, are there any final words of wisdom you want to leave our listeners with? What's the most important message you want them to take away from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that there's no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to vitamins and minerals. Your needs depend on so many factors: age, gender, lifestyle, overall health, even your genetic makeup. What works for one person might not work for another.
Makes sense. We're all unique, so our nutritional needs will be unique too. So how do we figure out what's right for us as individuals?
That's where personalized guidance comes in. Talk to your doctor, talk to a registered dietitian. They can really help you assess your individual needs and create a plan that's tailored to you. They can also help you make sense of all the research. Figure out what applies to your specific situation.
That's great advice. Don't be afraid to reach out to those experts and ask for help. They're there to guide you, support you on your health journey.
Exactly. And as you continue to explore this world of nutrition, remember to stay curious, keep learning, and don't be afraid to question things. The field of nutrition science is constantly evolving. New discoveries are being made all the time.
I think that's what I love most about this deep dive. It sparked a sense of curiosity in me and, wonder. It's reminded me that our bodies are these incredible complex systems. And the more we understand how they work, the better we can care for them.
I couldn't agree more. It's been a real pleasure diving deep into this topic with you and sharing these fascinating insights with our listeners.
Likewise, it's been an incredible journey, and I hope everyone listening feels empowered to take charge of their health and really nourish their bodies from the inside out.
Here's to a lifetime of learning and thriving.
Cheers to that, and thank you for joining us on this episode of The Deep Dive. Until next time, keep exploring.